he's a great player. I think he's a great guy, and I think that she's a terrific person. So I wish them a lot of luck.
Look at that, even President Trump talking about the big engagement. Welcome to NewsNation. I'm Brian Entin in for Chris CUOMO, who will be off periodically to complete interior fire and rescue training as a volunteer firefighter. But I'm holding down the fort tonight. We're live, and you just heard President Trump congratulating Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce on their engagement today during an especially long cabinet meeting. It went over 3 hours. It was his longest public appearance since he's been in office this time. He was talking about everything from crime to Cracker Barrel, of course. For the latest, let's go to NewsNation White House correspondent Kellie Meyer, who is live from D.C. And we just heard the big Cracker Barrel news. The old logo's back, Kellie.
Yeah, I was just going through my phone on X, Brian, and seeing a lot of reaction from White House staff. Well, one was just saying that there was a call today with Cracker Barrel and they were talking about this. But there was a lot going on at the White House today, including that meeting that you talked about lasting more than 3 hours, his longest appearance on camera really ever, and the longest cabinet meeting that we saw on camera ever as well. He touted his economic record, slammed Democratic governors for not being tough enough on crime, and he made big news when he announced he wants to bring back the death penalty to D.C. Take a listen to this.
If somebody kills somebody in the Capitol, Washington, D.C., we're going to be seeking the death penalty. So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime. The Republicans are the party that wants to stop crime. We're against crime. The Democrats like crime.
And I wanted to mention quickly, Brian, that D.C. doesn't have the death penalty. Capital punishment was repealed by the D.C. Council in the 1980s, and death penalty still requires a D.C. jury to vote on that unanimously, which is a tall order for any prosecutor. But we also know tonight we were speaking with the DHS Secretary Noem, talking about the potential for the National Guard in Chicago. I also asked her about ICE. She says they are planning to send an ICE strike team to Chicago, quote, soon, she said. And then there was one emotional moment from the cabinet meeting when Trump called on a reporter to share her story of when she was recently mugged. Take a listen to this moment.
In broad daylight, I was on my way to work, and a young man with a black ski mask pointed a gun at my face and threatened me to hand over my phone, my wallet. When I refused, he used the butt of his handgun to strike me across the face. Ever since, I've never dared to walk in the street of D.C. Thank you for now making D.C. safer for us, for our families, for my parents, on behalf of my parents, and now my baby on the way. Thank you so much.
So crime, a major focus of that over 3 hour long cabinet meeting today. A lot was discussed, but that was really the main headline coming out of it. Brian.
Wow, 3 hours, Kellie. All right, thank you so much reporting from the White House. I wanted to discuss the politics and the players. Let's bring in longtime D.C. resident, Democratic strategist Joel Payne. And from the great state of Indiana, we've got Republican strategist Pete Seat. Thank you both for being with us. First of all, Joel, Trump is accusing Democrats of liking crime, maybe a bit of an exaggeration there. But do you think Democrats are in trouble right now when it comes to the crime department?
Maybe, just maybe a bit of an exaggeration. Thanks for extending that virtue. I think Donald Trump has shown you who he is related to crime with his first act when he was president, this second time of his presidency, when he decided to pardon, to seek clemency for 1,600 criminals who violently assaulted our Capitol, violently assaulted many of the men and women who are protecting our capital city right now. So that's what Donald Trump did. Now, if you want to say that that conveys with, going and overreaching and sending, National Guard from states who have higher crime rates than Washington, D.C., great. Go for it. I don't think that conveys, and I think that there's a lot of American people who see right through what Donald Trump is trying to do here. He's trying to change the subject away from his unpopular agenda and from from the disappointment, frankly, of the first 8 months of his second term in office.
But you live in D.C., Joel. I mean, and I've got a ton of friends in D.C., and a lot of my friends there are Democrats who say that they haven't felt safe walking around. They haven't felt safe in some areas with their kids, you know, even on the weekends. I mean, do you admit that there's an issue there?
Yeah, so I should just correct something. I don't currently live in DC. I currently live in Maryland, but I lived in DC for about 10 years, and I've been in the DC area for about 20 years. DC, like many American cities, has ups and downs with crime. I'm from New Jersey. The part of New Jersey that I'm from has ups and downs with crime. I lived once in Iowa. They have ups and downs with crime. There are parts of this country that have local approaches that are consistent with their values to deal with crime. There are many ways that Donald Trump could support local officials. He could reinstate some of the money in the DC budget that is geared towards supporting initiatives to drive down crime. He could support money going back into the budget for states like Illinois who asked for it. So there are ways that Donald Trump could have in good faith sought to address crime, but this isn't about crime. This is about power, and it's about abuse of power.
What do you think, Pete, about the military coming in? Because there's a lot of people who say, look, be tough on crime. We want the cities to feel safer, but there's something about military in our cities. I mean, it does kind of feel almost like a North Korea or China or Russia. That's what you see in those places. I mean, does it bother you at all?
When it comes to Washington, D.C., absolutely not. Something's got to give. And crime has been a problem in Washington for far too long. I lived there when I worked in the George W. Bush administration. I felt safe every single day. In the years since, in the last couple of years, every time I go to Washington, I don't feel safe walking down the street. I make sure that I use a cab or ride share. I won't even take the metro because there is just this feel of unease on every street corner, going every block in the city in these last several years. The president has the ability to do something about that. He is doing something about that, and we're seeing the results. We've gone 2 weeks now, or just a day short of 2 weeks, without a murder in Washington, and that is just a couple days shy of the longest stretch that they've had in the last year or so. When it comes to Chicago, I don't know that he's going to take that step, but again, something's got to give. I grew up in Northwest Indiana, the Chicago media market, and anytime you would turn on the local news, it was the same pattern. Murder, 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 commercial, murder, robbery, commercial, weather, sports. Every single night. That's what you hear in Chicago, and it has not abated.
Sorry,
I have a question
ahead,
for
Joel.
you. Do you think that possibly in those Chicago situations that you're talking about, is it possible that permissive gun laws might be part of the reason why some urban areas in the country struggle to manage criminal problems, problems with crime? Is that a possibility or no?
It's a fair question,
It's
Pete.
because Democrats such as yourself, Joel, with all due respect, are covering your eyes and not seeing what's happening. You're not listening to the residents of these cities that have been crying out for help. There are plenty of people in Chicago that have been asking for help. Their governor refuses to help them. Their mayor refuses to help them. And here you now have a president who's offering to help. He's offering to help. And I don't want another murder to happen. I don't want another carjacking, another robbery. But the White House can easily say every time another violent crime occurs in the Windy City, hey, we offered to help. Your elected leadership does not want the help. You're going to have to change something to get something done.
I know President Trump made some news also this week by saying that he was going to ban flag burnings or do some executive order. Unclear what control he has over that. Do you think that executive order might also address people using the butt of a flagpole to assault a police officer on January 6th or other things that we saw happen on January 6th? Do you think that would also support the initiative of lowering crime in the nation's capital?
I don't really get what January 6th has to do with people just in their cities across America not feeling safe.
Wait a minute.
Joel.
You don't know what it has to do. The fact that 1,600 criminals committed violent assaults on January 6th in my community.
I'm not defending that. I'm not defending that, but I'm not defending it. I'm just saying if you live in some city in America where you are nervous about a break-in at night, you're nervous to walk your kids to school, which a lot of people are, I don't think they're really thinking about January 6th right now.
We live
And
in
this
a
is
country
why, Joel,
where,
and Joel, it's Brian. Joel, it's Brian's job to ask the questions, number one. Number two, I'm glad that January 6th is not a drinking game, because I would be on the floor right now with how many times you've brought it up. But your responses here are why Democrats are seen as completely out of touch. We're having a conversation about crime that is occurring in Chicago, in Washington, in other cities in this country. And what do Democrats want to do? They just want to talk about the past. They just want to look back. They don't want to look at how we solve problems. That's why Donald Trump was elected, and that's why he maintains such a high level of support among Republicans and other Americans across this country, because he's taking care of what matters and not just focused on things that have been in the past.
Okay, let's switch to a lighter topic, and I don't mind you asking some questions, by the way, Joel. It's fun when everybody sort of talks together. But I want to switch to a lighter topic. Cracker Barrel this became the big news of the last 24 hours. I have fond memories of Cracker Barrel growing up, road trips with my parents. That was always the spot, like, you would pull off to get pancakes. And I have to say, like, I was a little upset when they wanted to change the logo. I think just like things from your childhood, you want to see the same. And just within the last, I think, 20 minutes, Cracker Barrel has now come out and said, look, we heard the outrage. We're going back to the old logo. We're not moving forward with the new logo. What do you think, Joel? I mean, is this something you think we can agree on?
Can we agree on what? That people came up with a logo that some folks who were part of the customer base didn't like, and under public pressure.
But did you like the old logo? I'm just curious. I mean,
I don't have a material concern about it. I've been to Cracker Barrel before. They have delicious breakfast. I don't know if this logo was going to impact my desire to go back for some grits and some sausage in the morning. Look, I'm a New York Mets baseball fan. When they come out with new logos, sometimes I don't like them, sometimes I do. I don't make it a national political issue, and I certainly don't expect our president to spend time in the middle of economic distress for millions of people in this country, spending time, as Kellie reported, your colleague Kellie Meyer reported, they spent time, and he and his colleagues spent time today on the phone with Cracker Barrel. Like, that is a gigantic misuse of time. That is a way out of whack sense of priorities for this White House. And I think it's what's got a lot of American people a little frustrated with how Donald Trump has decided to lead this time around.
Why do you think it resonated so much, Pete? Because a lot of people were upset about the logo change and actually were happy that the president got involved, as crazy as that sounds.
Well, it shows that this president is in touch with what Americans are talking about, and presidents can walk and chew gum at the same time. In fact, they have to. It's a prerequisite of the job. And I think this struck a chord. It wasn't about a logo. It wasn't even really about the interior design change. This was a symbol of consistency. It was a symbol of being able to trust in a brand and know what was coming and what you could expect. When you were on a road trip and in an unfamiliar place, you knew the Cracker Barrel at the next exit was going to provide good food at a good price. You could count on that. So this wasn't just about a logo. This was about familiarity, and it was about comfort, and that's why we saw the response that we saw.
Yeah, I never thought of it as a woke thing. I think for me, it was just about everything has become so corporate these days, and there was just something about it being kind of dusty in there, and the old logo and the candy, and just to think of it becoming like a shell like so many of these other places you see, and the logo just looked so boring. That was the reason I cared about it. One last thing, can we all at least agree, I know there's been some disagreement here on the other topics, can you both agree that you are happy, this is a big question, that you are happy for Taylor and Travis?
Of course.
I'll start with you, Joel.
Yeah, love is great. Let's all get behind it.
Pete?
Happy for anyone getting married, but honestly, I could really care less.
Oh, come on, have a little fun. Both of you weren't very enthusiastic. I guess you can both agree that you weren't very enthusiastic about the big engagement today. All right, Joel Payne, Pete Seat, thank you both so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up next, as police continue their search for 7-month-old baby Emmanuel, today his parents were officially charged with his murder. Why are the police so certain that they killed their baby, even though, and this is a big part of it, no body has been found? And could the mom and dad be turning on each other to save themselves? That story's next. So almost 2 weeks after the disappearance of 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro, his parents have officially been charged with their son's murder. And the court added charges of domestic violence and also filing a false police report, despite the fact that the body of the child is still missing. The parents initially went public and begged for help to find their son, who the mom said had been kidnapped outside of a sporting goods store. But after a number of inconsistencies in the parents' stories and learning that baby Emmanuel's father, Jake, had served time for child abuse, and it was an awful, awful case, he left one of their children blind and nearly brain dead. They were both arrested on Friday morning. Emmanuel's dad seemed to be cooperating with police when he was seen Sunday with cops and cadaver dogs searching a remote field next to a California freeway. They were out there for hours. He was in the jumpsuit and everything, but no body was found, and he went back to jail. Their arraignment was supposed to take place today, but it was now pushed to next Thursday. I want to bring in Los Angeles County Prosecutor Jonathan Hatami, who specializes in child abuse cases. Jonathan, thank you for being here. What do you make of these additional charges? There was the murder charge already, but now we've also got domestic violence and making serious false complaints. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, clearly that this child has been missing for weeks, and they know now that the story that they gave, that this child was kidnapped, it was a fabricated story. So filing a false police report is a crime. It's a misdemeanor, and it goes towards the ultimate case, which the police and the DA have, which is these individuals killed baby Emmanuel, and then they lied about it and tried to conceal it and cover it up by saying that he was kidnapped, which is a false report. You also have a mom who has a black eye. You have a dad who, like you said, in 2018 abused his, one of the siblings so badly that she's permanently in a wheelchair and she's permanently blind. And so clearly he's violent. In California, domestic violence and child abuse usually go hand in hand. Your child abuse is domestic violence. It's violence in the home. And so these are all things of circumstantial evidence that the DA is going to use to prove the murder charges against both these individuals.
What do you make of the fact that Jake, the husband, was out on Sunday, and there's video of it in a very public area right next to the freeway, in the jumpsuit from the jail with police looking for the body? He apparently took police to that area. And at the same time, the wife was in jail doing an interview with a local newspaper saying, look, we didn't do anything wrong. I stand by him. He was a wonderful father. It seems like the stories are changing here. I mean, could he be turning on her?
First, clearly the DA could use that. It's going to show you that, the mom clearly is lying because, the dad's out there trying to at least show law enforcement where Emmanuel's body is. So we clearly know now mom is totally lying, and she's staying with her story, even though, the dad now looks like cooperating with law enforcement somewhat. Obviously, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department is doing their job, and they're doing a good job. And they questioned both of the suspects, and clearly dad told them something, which led them to take dad to this location to try to locate Emmanuel's body. However, they were unsuccessful in doing that. And so, yeah, they're going to interview the suspects. They're going to question them, and they're going to try to see if they can find Emmanuel's body and figure out exactly what happened.
But isn't it strange, Jonathan, that they took him out there and they didn't find baby Emmanuel's body? Every other time I've covered a story where they take the prisoner out of jail, and they take them to show us where the body is, show us where you hid the murder weapon, usually they find what they're looking for. Have you ever seen anything like this where they just went back with nothing?
So out of the thousands of child abuse and sexual abuse cases that I've done, I've filed 2 no-body baby murders. And one of them, the Sheriff's Department did a great job. We tried really hard to try to locate the baby, and, the dad was somewhat cooperative. So in this case, the dad may have said, this is where of Emmanuel's body, but that's a vast desert. And so you're talking about that baby's body's been out there for 2 weeks. It's been 100 degrees pretty much every day out here in California. Cadaver dogs can hit on cars or hit in apartments, but in a vast desert like that, that's really hard locate. And a 7-month-old baby is small, and you're talking about the elements and you're talking about wildlife. So very sad, but I wouldn't say it's unusual. Also, the dad could be lying. It's hard to know if he's telling the truth or not.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
what
I
I'm
think they're doing the
wondering.
best they can.
That's what I'm wondering, if this is some kind of game he's playing to a certain extent. And he's obviously, I mean, when you read that old case, what he did to that other child and why he's out of jail is a whole nother story. The wife has got the black eyes. I'm wondering if he's taking the cops on some kind of wild goose chase here.
So the sheriff's department is going to do everything in their power to find this baby. That's what we do, medically wise, law enforcement wise. And so if he says that the baby's there, we're going to go out there and we're going to try to locate this body. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do the best we can, even if we think he may be lying. If there's a part of that we think is the truth, we're going to go out there and do that. But you're right, it's a lot about control. Domestic violence is about control. Child abuse is about control. And these individuals want to control the situation, and they want to control law enforcement. And so clearly, sure, he could be lying.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's just so sad. I hope they find the remains. And the sheriff's office has made clear now that they don't think baby Emmanuel is alive somewhere or was really kidnapped, obviously, with these murder charges. So we'll stay on it. Jonathan Hatami, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, coming up, another murder that's captivated the country for years, the brutal slaying of 4 college students. And if you think the story ended after Bryan Kohberger pled guilty to 4 counts of murder, the saga, it still continues. The families of the victims are still fighting back, and this time, their target is actually the city of Moscow, Idaho, where the murders happened. Why are they targeting the city? We'll explain next. So last month, Bryan Kohberger pled guilty to the brutal stabbings of 4 Idaho college students, but the story has not ended there because the families of those victims feel like they are being victimized all over again. And this time it's by the city of Moscow, Idaho, where the crimes took place. This Thursday, the families of Maddie Mogen and Ethan Chapin will appear before a judge to make a final plea to prevent crime scene photos from being released to the public. Police body cam footage from the day of the murders has already been released. It includes an interview, really emotional, with one of the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, survived Kohberger's rampage. She describes some of what she heard. Take a listen.
I heard her going to the I think it was the bathroom, and I remember her sobbing, and I just remember hearing this guy's voice that I didn't recognize saying, "You're gonna be okay, I'm gonna help you," but it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it wasn't in like a nice way, it was like a weird way, like a weird tone.
You're gonna be okay. I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear anything from Kellie anymore at that
No,
point?
after that I didn't hear anything.
So is seeing video like that forcing the families to relive this tragedy all over again? Are the families right not to want any more images of the crime scene released? Joining me now is the attorney for the families, Leander James, and attorney Randy Zelin. Thank you both for being here. Leander, I wanted to ask you, because last time I talked to you, you had just won the emergency injunction. So you initially, I thought, it was going to stop any additional crime scene photos or videos from coming out. This body cam video, which I just showed, they also went into the house. We didn't show that on NewsNation out of respect for the families, but a big chunk of the body camera video was in the house. Were you surprised to see that released after your emergency injunction, Leander?
No, and I'll explain first. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak on behalf of my clients, and thank you for not showing those images from inside the house. No, the temporary restraining order that the judge entered, at the time it was just Karen Laramie who had filed the action to stop the release of this information. And the judge ruled that the images of the bedrooms, or what we call in the law the death scene images, of Maddie's bedroom would not be released. When the judge ruled in that way, the city then announced that it was not going to release any further images of both bedroom scenes. And so it didn't surprise me that other images were released because they weren't subject to the TRO, temporary restraining order.
Where do you draw the line, Leander, in terms of what, is it just the bedrooms? Where do you draw that line?
Well, that's the $1 million question. That's the question a judge is struggling with and will need to answer, and that the city has been struggling with. The line, I think, under the case law in Idaho and elsewhere, I think the line is clearly drawn before releasing any death scene images. I think those should not be released. Again, remember, this is a case that didn't go to trial. It's not as if this information or these photographs or images were put into evidence. They were not, and they're not in the public domain. So I think those clearly are off limits. Now, we think there's other images that should be analyzed objectively, whether they're an invasion of unwarranted invasion of personal privacy under Idaho's Freedom of Information Act statute, as well as the common law right to privacy. We have both in Idaho. And we think there are other images, if such as the video and audio you just played. Would that witness feel it was an invasion of their privacy to have that, thrown out to the world in a case like this? I would argue it is, but I will confess that there's a line there beyond the death scene images. I think are clearly over the line, but where that line is drawn with respect to other images is really an issue, going to be an issue in the case.
What do you think, Randy? I mean, where do you think the line should be?
Well, certainly, Brian, I will answer the question that you put to the world, which is the family right? Emotionally, of course they're right. Morally, of course they're right. Even perhaps ethically they're right. But legally, that's where the obstacle is. And that is because in our system of criminal justice, civil court, criminal court, there is a presumption of transparency. We got away from tyrannical British rule and chancellors of exchequers where everything was done via a star chamber in secret. Our courtrooms are transparent. Anyone can walk into a courtroom and watch what goes on. Anyone in a criminal or a civil case, as long as the file isn't sealed, can go to the clerk's office and get the file. In a federal case, you can simply go online and access documents. So this presumption of transparency makes it difficult for the parents now to be able to say legally, these documents that are part of the court record should be kept out of the public view. In addition, anything that the judge considered, whether for purposes of a change of plea or for sentencing, I think would also be considered judicial documents and then therefore fair game, because the public has a right to have confidence in the judges and the prosecutors. Let us see what you did, what you relied on as far as your decision-making process is concerned. So I think that is the dilemma legally for the family. Plus, keep in mind, they did want a trial, and in going to trial, all of this would have been put out in the public forum.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues now, though, is, back in the day, news organizations would have made the decision, this is too much. We may have received these documents or pictures, but we're not going to air them. Now with the internet and some of these podcasters, they just want to put everything out for clicks and views and to make money. So we're just in a different time now, I think, than before when journalists would just be responsible and decide, no, we're not going to show this. So Leander James, thank you so much. We'll be following the hearing on Thursday in Idaho. Randy Zelin, appreciate you coming on. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm back with 4 contestants from The Biggest Loser, which is now the subject of the new Netflix docuseries Fit for TV. The person in charge of overseeing not just the contestants' weight loss, but their overall health was Dr. Robert Huizenga. He joins me live now. Dr. H, I'm going to get to you in a second. But first, I just want to get to Hannah, who I hadn't heard from, about what you thought about the show. Because in the doc, you explained initially you didn't want to do it.
Oh, I was humiliated. Can you imagine someone walking up to you and saying, you should be on The Biggest Loser? It wasn't something that I really felt like I needed, but it was everything that I absolutely needed. I went on the show. I got the mental health help that I really needed. I met with the show psychologists, obviously Dr. Huizenga, Jillian and Bob, and we really felt very supported throughout the whole entire journey. Olivia and I were on the longest season of Biggest Loser history, season 11, and I walked into the show a pre-diabetic, 100% diagnosed with infertility. And since the show, I'm a healthy person. I have 2 children. I was able to have 2 children. I had a child right before we filmed the documentary at 46, which is incredible. And I'm at my maintenance weight today. through diet and exercise. And I learned all of these things on the show. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. But we were treated with kindness and respect. And I don't feel like an abused contestant or a victim in any way. And everybody has their own experience, and every season was different.
Yeah, and Dr. Huizenga, people have, you watch the doc, you realize people have very different experiences of the show. When you look back, what do you think? And do you look back with any regrets or any issues that you had with the way things were done?
Well, the thing I'm very proud of is we were very transparent and we were really trying to learn. So we did more medical studies than ever on any TV show, much less a reality show. So in this instance, we studied people over a 6-year span, and it was very gratifying to see that while some people regained essentially all their weight, usually about half of each year, about half did really well. And so we tried to investigate that half that was doing well, and we found out that they tended to exercise about 70 to 75 minutes a day, and the group that on average worked out 15 to 20 minutes didn't do as well. And that was advancing what we need to know about people that are continuing. But probably the biggest regret I have is that I didn't oversee the NIH study that was pretty much misreported in the New York Times, and it just caused so much pain and grief to the contestants. It was so heartbreaking when they came out, and you mentioned it, you said their metabolisms were permanently damaged, and that was found to not be true. Basically, they made a critical error. They did the very first metabolic rate the first day of the show. These contestants were coming from all over the country. They were so nervous, so excited, they couldn't sleep. They didn't sleep. They were so amped up that their metabolic rates, we believe, were far, far higher. And when we looked at comparable bariatric surgery patients, the initial metabolic rate they typed in was way off. And then subsequently, within the last year, we see other doctors trying to reproduce that study and could not. And so the entire study that caused so much pain and aggravation to these contestants, they were literally crying, calling me on the phone going, is my metabolism ruined for life? And the fact of the matter is it now appears very clear that this study was in error. And that probably pains me the most, that I couldn't intervene. We were trying to learn, we were trying to help. And, even papers like the New York Times, they really didn't do a good enough job in going through it. And then that myth has been perpetuated.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Huizenga, because one thing that Danny brought up in the docuseries was that there was no aftercare. Like they would do this intense, time there, lose all this weight, and then just go home with no real support. Meanwhile, the show made all of this money. And was there no money there to maybe have a therapist that they could stick with or get them a trainer when they went back home? Sorry, we only have 30 seconds left, by the way.
I want to make clear that I never made any money on, the points on the show. I made nothing on any of the products. I basically showed up and got paid for the hours that I worked. So I made none of that. But I did attempt, as I think all these contestants will verify, to call them all up and to try to see how everybody was doing over time. And we charted them for, those first 6 years. And, I just wish I could have done more and the show could have done more. No question. Well, we needed to do it.
We will continue the conversation. The doc is amazing. Everybody's interested. Appreciate you all coming on. Thank you so much for joining us at home. Chris is back tomorrow. Leland's show starts now. Leland?